Part 91. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 904. The Pink Tian Genius Battle is a relatively attractive event. And now that Jia Yan, a rookie who has gradually become the darling of the media, has appeared, the number of broadcasts of this event has increased sharply, and the Pink Tian forces have also earned a lot of money. But they were not happy, because this Jia Yan could be said to be an elite player. Then Jia Yan actually won again. Does he really want to enter the top 5? If a venerable person enters the top 5, the authority of our Pink Tian forces will be doubted. A half-star genius, looking at the live broadcast of the battle in the headquarters of the Pink Tian forces, looked a little solemn. Unlike the mighty forces and the tornado forces, the Pink Tian forces don't want a genius like Jia Yan who breaks the rules to come and play in the gym. They have finally accumulated some authority. If they become the champion of the strong, or even enter the top 5 at the semi-star level, then the authority of their competition will be questioned. A respected person can win 3 levels of Grand Slam events. Who would think he is authoritative? Forget it, in this competition of ours, we also have talented seniors from the battlefield coming to observe. It's not easy for us to make any small moves. He has already reached the top 10, so let him continue. I don't think he will be able to do it next. One step further. A half-star being watched the replay of Jia Yan's battle and said with a faint twinkle in his eyes. The remaining powerful men from the Pink Tian forces stopped talking. Although they felt that Jia Yan was indeed terrifying, and with the venerable's strength, he was able to defeat several powerful semi-star geniuses, they couldn't possibly think that Jia Yan could go one step further and truly reach the top 5. The next battle is a crucial battle to see whether he can enter the top 5. But a somewhat scolding scene occurred. Player Jia Yan faced off against player Daodu who was seriously injured before. However, player Daodu was seriously injured and had previously announced his abstention, so this time, player Jia Yan wins. The commentator announced the result of Jia Yan's 10-5 battle on the high platform. At this time, not only the audience on the sidelines started yelling, but even Jia Yan was startled. If he hadn't known that he had not conducted any shady transactions, he might have thought that this was a shady deal. Venerable Jia Yan, get off the stage. What kind of bullshit genius fight allows a venerable to reach the top 5? It's just like a joke, and he's seriously injured and admits defeat? Fake. Next time I won't watch the Pink Tian forces genius battle. Damn it, being beaten to the top 5 at the half-star level by a venerable. The gold content of the half-star geniuses here is too low. One by one, the audience was cursing on the sidelines. They had paid money to come to the scene to watch the battle. Most of them had strong men they admired or were optimistic about, but they were forced into this half-star genius battle by a respected man. Top 5, this is a joke. I am optimistic about Lord Dongxing. He is physically disabled and strong-willed. He has persisted for several years and has been ranked higher every time. But this Jia Yan has just appeared and is ranked higher than Lord Dongxing with the rank of venerable. What is this? Is Master Dongxing worse than Jia Yan? I support Mr. Megua. He also had a hard time overcoming his phobia of combat. This time I saw that he had a hard time reaching the top 50. It was originally very touching, but Jia Yan actually entered the top 5 in one fell swoop. It directly ruined my mood. It's so fake. Every audience has a reason to watch the battle. Some want the fighting experience of a strong person, and some simply want to support someone. But before this battle, no one thought about supporting Jia Yan. Hey, the whole auditorium is in chaos now. Among the creatures from the tornado forces in the audience, Jia Yan was lucky enough to win again, and he was both happy and proud in his heart. When the audience scolded Jia Yan, they would not scold him. On the contrary, the more they scolded him, the more excited he became. Watch them scolding each other. The more Jia Yan is scolded, the more he wins. It's best to have another game where the opponent is injured. This will be fun. Who says it won't happen? Jia Yan is so lucky. The geniuses and powerful men of the Tornado Force all smiled. Jia Yan returned to the contestants' table. Naturally, he couldn't help but sigh again when he saw his Taijin. You must know that he himself came to participate in the Pink Yen talent competition, and his best ranking was only 5th place. Now Jia Yan is all in one breath. To get his best ranking ever was simply impressive. The battle is still going on, but now the battle between other strong men is not so attractive. The audience on the sidelines and the audience on the media and TV were all looking at Jia Yan. They wanted to see how badly Jia Yan would lose in the next game. Among the 5 players, one will have a bye. I heard that the last time Jia Yan was in the powerful force, he had a bye. If he was shady, he will definitely not be so shady this time. He is definitely not the one who got the bye. Every audience wants to see if Jia Yan will have another shady incident after a bye. They all know how to organize a genius battle. It is very easy to do some shady work in the early stages of the game, but it becomes more difficult as you get to the back, because in the later games, it is difficult to observe the genius battlefield of the genius battle. Strong officials will pay more attention to this problem. If the operation is not good, the officials will order the genius war to be closed for rectification. But the audience still thinks that Jia Yan has something shady. It is basically impossible for a group of ordinary creatures to accept that a venerable person can defeat a genius and a half-star powerhouse, because this will highlight their incompetence. But things didn't go as expected. When Jia Yan drew lots, the brain on the battle stage dinged, and it turned out that Jia Yan was the one who got a bye again. I can't stand it anymore. The genius battlefield official should come out quickly. Jia Yan's shady story is too complete. Yes, this will also give us a bye. We, the audience, are all fools, right? Every audience member was angry. Not only them, but the contestants below, whether they were still fighting or eliminated, could not help but curse. Jia Yan has good luck, but he can't always be lucky. This is no longer a question of good luck, but there is definitely a shady story behind it. Yes, the audience outside the stadium called Jia Yan the shady master before. I didn't take it seriously. After all, I can understand it if I have better luck. But it happens again and again. I don't believe it if it's not shady. Jia Yan also stood on the high platform, a little stunned. I still feel like I'm doing something shady. This is really good luck. Jia Yan felt a little dreamy. He didn't think he was so lucky before, but in the recent genius battle, this luck couldn't be stopped. There was going to be a commotion inside and outside the genius battle arena, and some spectators even wanted to storm the arena. From the sky, a familiar voice came. Luck is also part of luck. I believe that Jia Yan did not cheat. This sounded, causing every creature around the arena to fall silent. The reason was that it was the stellar adult who was observing the game who spoke up. Thank you, sir. Jia Yan was startled for a moment, then he realized that this was the stellar senior who had previously been in the powerful force, and he quickly bowed respectfully to the sky. It turns out that the senior has also come to the Pink Yen forces to observe this year's genius battle. All the stellar adults have spoken out. I guess this Jia Yan is really not cheating, right? Maybe, this luck is too unbelievable, and there are also previous battles. Could it be that his strength is not fake even at the star level? That is too exaggerated. He has won consecutive battles even at the half-star level. Hearing the words of this stellar official, the surrounding players and the audience all took back their tempers angrily. You must know that in the genius battlefield, the star-level existence of official forces is not just as simple as an observer. Some forces and individuals that violate the regulations of the genius battlefield will be wiped out by these star-level powerhouses. In genius, in the battlefield, they are the law. Even such a being said that Jia Yan didn't cheat, so maybe Jia Yan really didn't cheat. Okay, let's start the battle again. When the commentator heard the words of the stellar powerhouse, he felt that he seemed to be familiar with Jia Yan, and at this time, I didn't dare to say anything bad about Jia Yan. Instead, he bravely announced that the battle would resume. From the beginning to the end, this stellar being only spoke words and did not show up. However, he calmed down the almost out of control arena inside and outside the arena. This shows how terrifying the stellar being is in this genius battlefield. Jia Yan quietly observed the battle from the sidelines. The remaining 4 warriors in the battle were all powerful. After Jia Yan saw them, he understood that even if he was stronger, he would not be able to defeat them. After all, when it comes to the existence of the top 5, they are even more powerful than Taijin. Well, if that's the case, should I seriously consider admitting defeat later? Jia Yan used this idea. After all, his strength was much lower. He only came to power to seek abuse, and he wouldn't even gain much combat experience. But a situation emerged that made Jia Yan and the surrounding audience even more angry. The strength of the 4 contestants was actually about the same. The first pair fought on stage for more than half an hour, and then one of them was stabbed through the abdomen by the opponent, while the other was stabbed through the neck by the opponent. The other pair was even funnier. The 2 powerful men were both assault-type monsters. They were fast. After fighting for 5 minutes, they both stabbed each other in the head with their weapons. They were both dead. Well, Jia Yan was stunned. The audience and the strong contestants were also stunned. The creatures in the tornado force were so stunned that they almost fainted. I declare. The half-star commentator swore that he had never seen such a strange situation in his life, and he was trembling when he spoke. Originally, there were not many casualties in genius battles, but in this one, 4 strong men suffered heavy casualties in 2 consecutive battles. The chapter of the previous chapter was wrongly typed, it should be chapter 26, so this chapter is restored to 27. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 905. It is rare for geniuses to die fighting each other, especially the powerful geniuses. They participate in genius battles because they want to hone themselves and for rewards. Generally speaking, it will not lead to life or death due to this. But there were casualties in both of these 2 games, and no one could figure out the reason. Actually, you can figure it out if you think about it. Because Jia Yan alone occupies the public's attention, these 4 powerful men are half-star geniuses, so they naturally feel uncomfortable. The less the audience and the powerful men of the same power pay attention to them, the more they become. The killing was brutal. The result was that both of them couldn't stop and ended up dying together. When the commentator saw the situation on the field, he immediately understood that this year's genius battle had the same result as the powerful genius battle. I declare. This time the winner of the Guan Strong Genius battle is Jia Yan. Following the commentator's voice, all the Tornado Force geniuses roared crazily. This is amazing. Jia Yan actually won the championship at the semi-star level of the 2 major genius battles, and anyone with a discerning eye can see that Jia Yan's strength was still not enough in the 2 major genius battles. But strength is strength, luck is luck. If you have luck, what can others do? Compared with the excitement of the small group of creatures from the tornado force, the disbelieving spectators and contestants inside and outside the arena all had red eyes. Finally, one audience member couldn't help it and shouted loudly using the power of his brainwaves. Whether Lord Seeing is protecting him or not, I have to say it. This is unfair, Jia Yan must have used some cheating method. Yes, it must be a shady secret. It is absolutely impossible for Jia Yan to win a semi-star talent competition. What kind of strength does he have? Yes, I think he can't even beat me. When the commentator's words ended, The audience and contestants' doubts became louder again, and this time they didn't even give the stellar master the face. After all, Jia Yan won again. All living beings who knew that he had won a battle between half-star geniuses in a powerful force no longer believed in the outcome of this battle. Could it be that Jia Yan is the illegitimate son of an adult from the genius battlefield? Otherwise, how could this happen? An audience member was about to make some outrageous speculations, but as soon as he spoke, all living creatures saw a blood mist appear in front of their eyes. The powerful second-level monster actually exploded into a ball of blood mist. And above the sky, a huge creature also slowly appeared in front of all living creatures at the same moment. The audience who had dared to speak before, as well as the excited contestants, suddenly shut their mouths one by one. This star-level existence did not appear and appeared in person, which are two kinds of oppression. Especially when he just appeared, he used the power of brainwaves to easily kill a powerful person in the second level. This attitude of killing chickens to scare monkeys shows he is definitely not a soft-hearted person. The whole place fell silent immediately. The appearance of a star-level star actually made hundreds of thousands of spectators and geniuses afraid to speak. Okay, I declare that Jia Yan's victory this time is well deserved. Jia Yan, come with me to receive the reward. The figure of the star-level monster turned out to be Longta, who had previously distributed rewards to Jia Yan in the powerful force. His body was as huge as a small interstellar material, several kilometers in size, which shocked the audience. No one knows whether a star-level war supervisor will show up. Some genius warfield official war supervisors like to appear in front of weak creatures and make a scene, but some are different. They like to hide. And this incredibly huge star-level monster seems to be an existence that doesn't like to show up, but he actually showed up. And he gently asked Jia Yan to go with him to receive the reward? Too exaggerated. You must know that the official star level of a genius battlefield is almost a star level existence from the genius battlefield. They are generally stronger than the ordinary star level in the outside world. They hang out in the genius battlefield all day long. What kind of genius have I not seen? But such a being actually showed up in person and spoke kindly to Jia Yan, which was simply incredible. Okay, Lord Longta. Jia Yan nodded, then flew straight up. There was no award ceremony, but he followed the other party and flew away. In this battle between the geniuses of the Pingtian forces, he once again won a lot of praise, winning the championships of the Venerable, the second-level Powerful, and the Semi-Star level. But Jia Yan wasn't too excited because he understood that there was still a huge gap between his strength and the Semi-Star level. This Pingtian Force Genius battle is just a genius battle between the fringe forces in the 132-star district. In the more central Force Genius war in the 132-star district, he might not even be able to break into the top 100. The 132-star sector is the low-level star sector in the entire genius battlefield, the more powerful mid-level star sector, and the high-level star sector where there are even more powerful semi-star geniuses, some of which are so powerful that they can even be destroyed with one move. Kill those half-star warriors that he couldn't defeat just now. So Jia Yan understands that the road he has to take in the future is still far away. Longta in front took Jia Yan to fly quickly. He seemed to know Jia Yan's flying ability, so he flew extremely fast. Jia Yan had to cross the space several times in the rear before he could barely keep up with the opponent's speed. Arriving at a land millions of kilometers away from the Pingtian forces, I saw nothing but a vacuum. Longta stood up suddenly. Jia Yan. He turned around, and the huge flying monster body made Jia Yan, who was only over 100 meters in size, look like a real mosquito. Lord Longta. Jia Yan stopped and replied respectfully. You did very well. I underestimated you in the genius battle between the mighty forces. You have made so much progress in such a short period of time. Longta looked at Jia Yan, a somewhat startled expression gradually emerged. You must know that as a former high-level genius in the genius battlefield, and now promoted to the stellar level, Longta has seen even the top geniuses, and he is engaged in the work of watching these geniuses every day, so he can be amazed by his existence. Not much left. But Jia Yan still surprised Longta. In the powerful genius battle, although he saw that Jia Yan was very talented, had good actual combat abilities, and seemed to have some powerful inheritance, there were many such existences, and Jia Yan was not even as good as some of the higher ones in his memory. Genius, let alone top genius. But just a short time later, Jia Yan came to this battle of geniuses among Pingtian forces and actually defeated the opponents that he could not defeat before. Although there was some luck, he once again won the championships of several major levels. This can't help but surprise Longta. You don't have to be modest. As an official of the genius battlefield, I understand what your talent represents. Longta stopped Jia Yan from saying anything, and then said calmly, Jia Yan, I have done some research on what happened before you came to this genius battlefield, but in addition to knowing that you are in the Northern Star territory, apart from the circumstances of the times, nothing else can be found. Can you tell me where you came from? Jia Yan couldn't help being shocked when he suddenly heard that Longta actually asked about Li directly, and a trace of uneasiness emerged in his heart. Don't worry, my genius battlefield recruits talents. Even if you are a genius from the hostile forces in this wide area, as long as you explain your identity, we will not kill you, we will just send you out of the genius battlefield. Longta saw Jia Yan hesitated, and a hint of uncertainty gradually emerged in his eyes. Hostile force? Wide area? What is this? Are there any hostile forces to the genius battlefield and the several superpowers it belongs to? There was a trace of confusion in Jia Yan's eyes. His mind was running rapidly. At this moment, he even thought about running away. But when he was escaping in front of a terrifying star-level being who was even more powerful than the Kongping he had seen before, Jia Yan didn't have any confidence in escaping. It could even be said that he knew that he couldn't escape at all. Jia Yan was helpless as his thoughts changed rapidly. This is the strength of the most powerful person. Faced with the difference in strength between heaven and earth, Jia Yan can't make any backhand. Lord Longta, I am not a member of any hostile force. I don't even know what you mean by wide area. Jia Yan smiled bitterly and turned on his portable computer, and then a huge star map flashed out of the vacuum. Jia Yan searched carefully and saw the Orion's arm where the Earth is, and it's not the Orion arm itself, but a place that is faintly isolated from the edge of the Orion arm system, where you can faintly see the light spots representing the Sun. After he found this area, which was only a few hundred light-years in size, he pointed to this place and said, Sir, I am from here. Although I do not belong to the jurisdiction of several superpowers, I do not belong to any of them. In your mouth, it is roughly let's go to a backward place. This place? It's 8,000 light-years away from the genius battlefield and the left domain. A strange light flashed in Nalongta's eyes, and then he was a little amazed. He had some impressions of that place. It seemed that several powerful galactic beings had fought a terrifying monster there tens of thousands of years ago, and even the surrounding area of few stars have been smashed, and no force will be able to get involved there in the future. I understand. It seems that you have experienced some unknown things by being able to come here. I will investigate the truth of what you said. If you really come from that star field, then in my genius star there is no problem with the domain. As long as there are no hostile forces, our genius battle domain will not reject anyone who comes to it. Of course, when you become a star, it will be even better if you can join my genius battle domain. Longta actually extended an olive branch. Invite me to join the official force of genius battlefield. Jia Yan is very sure about his origins. If the genius battlefield does not reject the creatures in the isolation zone of the Orion arm, as Longta said, he will definitely meet the requirements. but he never expected that the other party wanted to invite him now. You must know that he is only at the level of venerable. This is no longer optimistic, but that Jia Yan is destined to achieve great things in the future. Thanks to book friend 1611819191928607 book friend for the 1200 starting coin reward. Thank you rich man. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 906. Of course, Your Excellency Jia Yan, my invitation will not take effect until you become a star. You don't have to think so much now. While Jia Yan was thinking, Longta spoke again, interrupting Jia Yan's thoughts. I see, I thought I would be appreciated by adults now. Jia Yan laughed lightly when he heard this. I'm not sure about your talent, but your improvement speed does satisfy me, and this is just a ventilation beforehand. I will submit your observation report now. If you reach stellar level, maybe it's not a strong man of my level who is here to invite you. A man stronger than Senior Longta came to invite me. Jia Yan was startled for a moment, then shook his head indifferently. He was just a venerable, and he didn't know when he would become a star. Jia Yan, now let me give you some advice, that is, your current talent is a bit inferior at the edge of the genius battlefield, and it cannot maximize your strength. You still have to go to the center of the genius battlefield. That is the place where geniuses like you can shine. Do you understand? Longta saw that Jia Yan was still respectful to him, so he put forward his own advice. Originally, the official experts in the genius battlefield generally did not teach geniuses in the genius battlefield. It was unprecedented for Longta to be able to give Jia Yan such advice. The central area of the genius battlefield. Okay, thanks to Senior Longta, I will improve my strength in the 132nd star area. After I return to the 215th star area to complete something, I will leave for the central area. Jia Yan he nodded and accepted Longta's suggestion. And that's what he planned. Since you have plans to go to the central area, I also tell you to be prepared. The central area is not like the edge land here. There are more killings and fighting between forces there than in the edge land. I hope you can take care of yourself. A huge box appeared in front of Longta. This box was the reward for the 3 major champions. Jia Yan, this is your reward this time. Since you will still be in the 132 star area for a while, maybe we will have a chance to meet. Goodbye. After Longta finished speaking, he quietly disappeared in front of Jia Yan. Jia Yan didn't even notice how such a huge body disappeared. So strong. Jia Yan looked around blankly, and after not feeling any breath, he withdrew his gaze angrily. He knows that compared to the star level, his current strength is still not enough. Even listening to Longta's words, if he fights with high-level geniuses of the same level now, he may win, and who loses, let alone be stronger than high-level geniuses. A powerful top genius. The genius battlefield is indeed interesting, but just because it is interesting, I want to become stronger here, right? Jia Yan was not discouraged at all, but was full of fighting spirit. The rewards are still the same, but they are more generous than those from powerful forces. Among them, what surprised Jia Yan was that there were 2 space stones. Very good. With the energy from this reward and some special resources, my strength can be greatly improved again. Full of motivation, Jia Yan carried the box and slowly flew back to where Pingtian's forces were. In the space where he left, what Jia Yan didn't know was that a huge creature was not far away, looking at Jia Yan's departure indifferently. He was the same Longta who had talked with Jia Yan before. This Jia Yan actually comes from that place. There was a hint of surprise in Longta's eyes. As for that place, it must be the place where a powerful monster fought with several galaxy-level seniors tens of thousands of years ago. It is said that the powerful monster at that time had reached the last stage of his life, but he was still fighting with several galaxy-level seniors. The battle between the two was earth-shattering, and in the end no one could do anything to anyone, and several powerful galaxy-level warriors swore never to enter that star field again. Thinking of the ancient rumors he heard, Longta's eyes were filled with surprise. It is said that the powerful monster's race name seems to be Jin, an evolved beast, right? I don't know if this Jia Yan has anything to do with that terrifying existence. But it must have nothing to do with it. Jia Yan didn't know that Longta behind him actually knew the name of the evolved beast, and he never thought that there once was an evolved beast that had such a high status in the entire starry sky. Of course, Jia Yan knew that in ancient times, there was an evolved beast that walked out of the Orion arm, and this was also the reason why he was teleported from the Earth by OS. All kinds of things, Jia Yan has not connected them yet, but this does not hinder anything, because no matter what happened to the former Orion arm, it cannot stop him from pursuing strength. Oh, look, our 3-time winning talent is back. Jia Yan returned to the arena, but he didn't expect that most of the audience there still hadn't dispersed. Even the contestants didn't disperse either. Instead, they stayed where they were, waiting for Jia Yan's return. Of course, facing someone who relied on luck again, or seemed to have used some unknown method to win the championship, they couldn't welcome him with a good face. How dare the shady master come back? I ran away in despair. That's right. Do you still want rewards from the Pink Yen forces? You are really shameless. Along with Jia Yan's decline, voices of condemnation came from the audience, and even some strong men in the players' seats were encouraged to make sarcastic remarks to Jia Yan. Of course, Jia Yan pretended not to see all this. He was originally surprised by his victory, but regardless of whether he deserved it or not, the championship was his own, and he would not miss the reward from the Pink Yen forces. Okay, here is the reward from my power. Your Excellency Jia Yan, please take it. A semi-star genius came to the competition stage and was a bit harsh towards Jia Yan. If I had known, I would also sign up for this competition, so that I could experience Jia Yan's skills. Jia Yan didn't care what the other party said. After receiving the reward, together with the reward from Nalongta, the two big boxes emitted an enviable light, giving him the feeling of a nouveau riche. This is a championship reward of several levels. Can a venerable Jia Yan be able to digest it? It is simply a waste of natural resources. Some sour remarks were made. Most of the audience and contestants believed that a venerable was not worthy of such a level of reward, but they had no idea of snatching it away. After all, this genius battle had just passed, so if they snatched it now, not to mention whether the genius battlefield official will investigate, it is said that even the Pink Yen forces are unlikely to agree. Your Excellency Taijin, let's go. I'm afraid that if I stay here any longer, I will cause public outrage. Jia Yan returned to the tornado forces and said to Taijin somewhat self-deprecatingly. Good. A group of geniuses from the tornado force took off together and headed towards the battleship group. Although the other powerful forces and the audience were still cursing, no one could stop them. Above the starry sky, the tornado forces and the Edisha on which Jia Yan was riding once again traveled for 5 or 6 days. Okay, now that we're this far away, we won't be afraid of any forces coming to block us. The tornado force Taijin looked helplessly at the starry sky behind him, and then smiled bitterly. It turned out that since the Pink Yen forces left, some warships from some forces followed them. Although they didn't appear to take action directly, they put great pressure on the powerful tornado forces. Jia Yan's small reward is naturally not enough to induce other forces to take risks, but they are angry at Jia Yan's winning method, and no one knows whether they will take action. Originally we wanted to go to another force for a genius battle, but the time was missed. Taijin looked at the scenery outside the bridge. The huge Edissa was at the center of the entire fleet, but Jia Yan seemed to have not shown up in the past few days. Just when he was a little worried and wanted to use his brainwave power to ask about Jia Yan's situation, a wave of waves suddenly erupted above the Edisha. This fluctuation came extremely unexpectedly. No one knew that there would be such a brainwave power fluctuation exploding at this moment. Moreover, this brainwave power is extremely fast, and the bombing without any attributes is no different from the explosion of a bomb. Looking for books. The Aditya itself was naturally the first to bear the brunt, and the entire hull shook. Fortunately, it seemed that it had already been on defense, but after the hull shook hard, there was not much impact. But a powerful battleship very close to the Edissa was not so lucky. It was only more than 700 meters long, and the brainwave power of this explosion directly bombarded it into the battleship on the side of Ling. Both battleships glowed with fire, and some of them were damaged. A large maintenance fee is inevitable. Of course, the power of this brainwave was not enough to destroy the battleship. After sweeping it once, there was no more movement. What's wrong? The powerful tornado forces all looked at the Edisha where Jia Yan was in horror. Did something happen to Your Excellency Jia Yan? Most of those who expressed worry and shock were geniuses below the sub-level level, while the semi-star level experts, including Taejin, all looked as if they had seen a ghost. This fluctuation should be the energy fluctuation of promotion or breakthrough. Could it be? Taejin and a half-star colleague next to him looked at each other in horror. A possibility occurred to them. The previous explosive fluctuation seemed to them to have surpassed ordinary second-level experts. Although Jia Yan was powerful before, his brainwave power level was not much different from that of an ordinary second-level expert. But now the brainwave power that burst out was simply a powerful second-level expert level. This only means one thing. That's Jia Yan's breakthrough again. Sure enough, just when they were all astonished, a faint smile came from the Aditya. Senior Taejin, and all of you, I'm sorry. Because of my breakthrough, your power has suffered property losses. I will compensate for it, Jia Yan said in his voice. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 907. Sure enough, Jia Yan made a breakthrough. Taejin and other half-star geniuses all looked at each other in confusion, and then they felt that all the half-star colleagues around them had a wry smile, and at the same time they all had a look of surprise. You must know that Jia Yan's strength has improved a lot in the short period of time they have been together. To have it happen again so soon makes people go crazy with jealousy. They are also genius creatures, but compared with Jia Yan, they feel like they are no different than trash. And they all felt that Jia Yan's breakthrough this time was not such a simple breakthrough. Yes, on the Edissa, Jia Yan was also a little surprised by his breakthrough. He was so happy. This breakthrough came earlier than he expected, and it was not just an increase in general combat strength, but a breakthrough in real strength. Today, some condensation liquid appears on Jia Yan's body, slowly absorbing the minerals on the ground and the star core body, and then these substances come to Jia Yan's body and are converted into energy. Just now, his physical strength reached a critical point, and his brainwave power suddenly exploded. And when he observed his own strength again, he suddenly smiled lightly. Late stage of the Venerable. Although he has only just reached the late stage of the Venerable, the increase in brainwave power represents the increase in overall strength. Moreover, coupled with Jia Yan's combat experience and advantageous moves, his overall strength has at least doubled. If I were to fight with King Urshan, I am now confident that I can completely defeat him, but my goal is far from being as simple as defeating King Urshan. There are still about 3 months left before the duel with King Urshan. Let me participate in 1 or 2 more genius battles in Star District 132. Jia Yan thought with a smile. It can be said that someone will give you a pillow when you are sleepy. Jia Yan wants to find an opponent. The tornado forces are also suffering from the fact that they have Jia Yan, a big killer, but they are blocked by a group of forces. An invitation for a genius battle is brought here by radio waves. In a small fleet. This is an invitation from the Erlong force to the genius battle. Isn't this one of the top genius battle events in the 132nd Star District? How could they invite our tornado force? Tai Jin looked at the electronic invitation in front of him and was a little shocked. You must know that their tornado force, although they have some reputation in this border area, but in the entire 132-star area, they are just like the flowers and plants on the roadside. Not to mention their reputation, many people have never heard of their name. The Erlong Force's Genius Battle is a grand event in the entire 132-star zone. Now that the Erlong Force has actually issued an invitation to participate, how could this not shock Tai Jin? Let's put it this way, although their fleet of tornado forces, which wants to compete outside, is chased by a group of strong men from other forces, if the invitation letter from the Erlong forces is taken out, the forces chasing them will never dare to pursue them again. Yes, this shows how powerful this invitation is. They must have heard about His Excellency Jia Yan's deeds, so they want to invite him to participate. For such a big matter, I need to ask Your Excellency Jia Yan for his opinion. Jia Yan is on the Edessa, continuing to consolidate his newly achieved breakthrough. Although he has broken through to the late stage of the Venerable, he is just entering for the first time. If he wants to stabilize, it will take a lot of time. In addition, it will also take a certain amount of time to become familiar with the body after the breakthrough, so he is far from reaching the current peak. Strength. Jia Yan, excuse me. Just as Jia Yan continued to familiarize himself, a brainwave power was gently transmitted into the Edesha, as if he was afraid of disturbing Jia Yan's practice. He was cautious. Senior Taijin, what do you want from me? Jia Yan heard Tai Jin's voice and asked in his heart. In this way, Tai Jin told Jia Yan about the Na Erlong force's invitation to fight. Erlong's power? Accept it. I happen to have a breakthrough and I need a place to release and get familiar with my power. After Jia Yan heard this, he immediately accepted the battle without thinking. Okay, then I'll accept it, but I have to tell you, the genius battle of the Erlong forces is no better than the genius battle of the small forces on the edge of our star region. There are many talented and powerful people in it, and there will even be middle-level geniuses participating in each. In level battles, you don't have to force yourself to win the championship. Just be able to get the venerable level champion. If you are a strong person in the second level, you can get it. It doesn't matter if you can't get it. After all, the people there are all outstanding geniuses. Tai Jin gave Jia Yan 2 instructions. Understood. Jia Yan did not explain, but continued his improvement. He didn't want to tell Taijin too much before the war started. Even Jia Yan himself didn't know how much his strength had improved. It was only a rough estimate. Jia Yan also needed to know how specific it was. It takes some fighting to verify. The journey this time was quite smooth, and there were not many obstacles to the tornado force and his party. After all, the fringe forces would not have thought that the tornado force would dare to move to the center of the 132-star sector with such a small fleet. You must know that compared with the forces there, the small forces in the fringe areas are not much different from the country people. Due to the long distance and the inability to use large-scale space transfer operations in the star area, this trip took Jia Yan and his party more than half a month. As the strongest player in a large low-level star sector 132 is still a place where it is very possible to advance to the mid-level star sector. It naturally has its charm and power. While traveling, Jia Yan continued to steadily improve the strength of his small breakthrough. While observing the star district, which is countless times more prosperous than the 251 star district. The overall area of 132 star district is only 3 or 4 times larger than that of 251 star district, but the number of powerful people here and the strength of the forces are not the same. Many powerful battleships are flying in the same direction as us. Are these all geniuses going to compete? Jia Yan saw many warships heading in the same direction on the road. Some of them formed a fleet, and some were flying alone. He saw more than 100 ships one after another. The Erlong force, from what I read on the internet, is a top-notch force in the 132-star sector. There are several mid-level geniuses within the power, and there is even a mid-level genius who is about to reach half-star level. As long as it reaches the half-star level, maybe they can compete for the throne of the most powerful person in this sector. When Wang Jian saw the strength of this Erlong force, he was also shocked for a moment. Wang Jian believes that middle-level geniuses are rare. Their strength is destined to be extremely terrifying. Not to mention the semi-star level mid-level geniuses, and the sub-level mid-level geniuses of the Naertian forces, he may not be able to defeat them now. Of course, you won't know the specific situation until you fight it. But the stronger the opponent, the greater my motivation, right? After Jia Yan thought so much, he stopped thinking about it. In this battle between Erlong forces and geniuses, he himself was not very sure that he could win 3 consecutive championships. He just had to try everything to know the result, right? But what Jia Yan didn't know was that among the current Erlong forces, a half-star existence that he once wanted to kill was a guest here. My lords, I am naturally relieved that if Jia Yan dares to come to your sect leader's power, he will not be able to escape even if he wants to. In front of this half-star powerhouse, there are several arrogant half-star geniuses. Although they are also half-stars, their strength far exceeds the half-star existence in front of them. And the half-star strong man who spoke, if Jia Yan could recognize it here, the other party was actually the half-star strong man from the Urshan force. In the powerful force genius battle, he was also the one who told Jia Yan's origin, ruining Jia Yan's reputation. Unexpectedly, this half-star strong man actually came to the Erlong force, and it seemed that although he was looked down upon, no one in the Erlong force would chase him away. Haha, the Urshan force is a branch of my force. If you are angry with Jia Yan, we will naturally help solve it. Originally, we wanted to send someone to go with you to the 251 sector, but now Jia Yan is here in this 132-star area. If we invite him to come over and eradicate him from the Erlong forces, we will be doing you a favor. A semi-stellar genius calmly responded to the monster of Na Urshan's power, and then said gloomily, that Jia Yan seems to have a good reputation in the borderland. I believe he will not reject us. Invite. This kind of monster from a small place thinks he has talent and will definitely come to fight. Besides, he doesn't know the relationship between our two major forces. Let's see how we can kill him. These few talented and powerful people from the Erlong force are the main people who invite and deal with Jia Yan. After all, they are just a small venerable, and it is not the turn of the powerful people in the entire force to meet and discuss. Naturally, the Tornado Force, Jia Yan, and others did not know that they had already aroused hostility from their master before they reached the boundary of Urshan Force. At this time, the fleet took its time and finally arrived at the border area of Erlong Force. It's such a prosperous border. Is this still a border? Jia Yan and others took a battleship to the border void, only to see that there were not only many battleships and aircraft lined up here, but also flying shops. There were some venerable monsters carrying goods, waiting in line one after another for inspection. They couldn't help but feel a little dazed next to the battleship that had passed the agency inspection. They were constantly selling items. We are selling the armor of the strong. It can be worn by the venerable, and can be worn by the strong in the second level. It can offset the full blow of the strong in the second level. Please buy it if you need it. A venerable man came to the fleet of the Tornado forces and shouted. Can this armor block a blow from a strong person in the second level? Jia Yan tried to ask the venerable one. Yes, you are also a venerable. Come on, buy this one. It will definitely ensure that you enter the top 2000 in the Erlang Genius War and shine the lintel of your power. How about it? Why don't you get one? The venerable man sensed the aura of a venerable man emanating from Jia Yan's Edisha, and immediately came up to sell it. Thanks to a book friend for the tip. I can't see your name, sorry. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 908. The first 2000 in the venerable level. Jia Yan heard the tout's words and shook his head helplessly. It would be ridiculous if he could only enter the first 2000 of His Holiness. Don't you want to buy it? It's just that, a person from the countryside will not know how terrifying the battle between Erlang and Genius is. Seeing that Jia Yan had no intention of buying it, the venerable man immediately continued to fly away without any intention. Your Excellency Jia Yan, did you see that although we didn't buy it, many surrounding forces did? These venerables who bought it were just to get into the top 2000 sages. This shows how terrifying the battle between Erlang geniuses is. There was a hint of solemnity in Tai Jin's voice transmission. You must know that in their genius battle of tornado forces, the total number of creatures at the venerable level is only 2 to 3,000. But in this genius battle of dragon forces, it is difficult for the venerable level to enter the top 2000. This shows how fierce the competition is. I understand. Jia Yan just nodded in the Edisha, and then continued to study ways to improve his strength without much thought. Several sages from the tornado force still bought the tout's armor. After all, although they came with Jia Yan, they would also sign up to participate in the battle. The tornado forces had been queuing at the back of the queue for a long time, and it was finally their turn. Submit your force's entry request and pay a portion of the fee. To enter the Erlang force, you need to apply for entry. After all, it is a powerful force, and it is difficult to simply enter the air to participate. But there are still countless geniuses who want to participate, not only because the Erlang force genius battle has generous rewards, but also because they can show their faces in front of major forces, especially for some retail tourists who are not favored by the forces and cannot join certain forces. After showing up in this genius battle, you can get the opportunity to join certain forces. The creatures guarding the gate were several sub-level powerhouses and a half-star powerhouse. When they saw the size of the tornado force's fleet, they understood that they were just country people and visitors from the force, and they were very rude. Well, we have an invitation letter, do we still need to pay? Tai Jin took out the invitation letter sent by the Erlang force with some obsequiousness. When he took out the invitation, the half-star genius who was guarding the gate quickly flew forward. After confirming the authenticity of the invitation, his attitude changed drastically. Everyone, please come in. Why didn't you tell me earlier if you had an invitation letter? There is a special passage for guests over there. You can go in directly. The surrounding participating forces were also a little surprised when they saw the invitation letter from the tornado force. That force called the tornado force actually has an invitation letter. You must know that the Erlang force usually gives invitation letters to important forces. How could it be that this seemingly ordinary force could actually be a powerful force? I've seen it. It turns out that there is a foreign aide in their force. He seems to be a talented and powerful person from outside. He has made a lot of noise at the border. The Erlang force must have invited the tornado force because of this foreign aid. So it's a foreign aid? Haha, what's the point of a foreign aid causing trouble at the border? Maybe even the top 100 in Erlang's power won't be able to get into it. Under the watchful eyes of all the queuing forces, the Alexander ships of the tornado force entered the Erlang force area. It turns out that this is what the top power in the 132nd star district looks like. It is really powerful. After the battleship flew within Erlang's force for a while, Jia Yan sighed with emotion inside the Edisha. I originally thought that the Pingtian force and the tornado force were pretty good forces, but now that I got to the Erlang force, I realized that they were just rural forces. In Erlang's power, it can be said that everything is like a paradise. There are man-made buildings everywhere, strong men, or aircraft flying in the starry sky. The scenery of the surrounding starry sky is also artificial, and the darkness is no longer its pitch black, but colorful and extremely dazzling. If you live here, you will probably be very happy. Strong people don't just like to become stronger. Material and spiritual needs are also needed. If I came to live in a place like this, I might also like it very much. Jia Yan looked at the appearance of a famous genius and strong man outside. He looked a bit envious. But it didn't take long for him to wake up. No, my goal is not just such a life, but the Erlang force is just a force in a low-level star area. I don't know what the high-level force in the center of the genius battlefield looks like. I have lost myself here. What's the point of my heart? The other creatures in the tornado force had obviously made psychological preparations in advance, and their performance was much better than Jia Yan's. Of course, everyone also showed envious eyes. The power of Erlang is really suitable for life. While the tornado forces were flying, there were other external forces traveling around them. They were also shocked by the scene inside the Erlang forces. Just as all the forces were moving forward, several relatively small shadows of creatures in the starry sky slowly flew towards the location of the tornado forces. Not long after, they entered the interstellar detection signal locking distance of the tornado force battleship. "Welcome, everyone from the tornado forces." One of those creatures made such a sound. Jia Yan was in the Edisha. He originally had a vague idea about the next powerful plan, but after hearing the sound, his mind was moved, and then he saw these few animals through the external screen on the Edisha. Images of living things. King Tian? No. When he saw the talking creature, Jia Yan was suddenly startled, but after taking a closer look, he calmed down. Among these monsters, the one that made the sound looked very similar to King Urshan from the 251 star district. If Jia Yan had not had several contacts with King Urshan, he might not have been able to tell them apart at all. The opponent's body is also similar to that of King Urshan, with a human head with half of the face broken, and the body is a huge monster body. And compared to King his body seems to be larger, and the strong sense of coercion emanating from his body also makes him look more powerful. This is not King Urshan, but why is it so similar to King Urshan? When Jia Yan saw the monster, a thoughtful expression flashed in his mind. Although he didn't know the relationship between the other party and King Urshan, he soon knew that this monster must have some relationship with King Urshan. After all, the appearance of the two sides was so similar. I actually met a being similar to King Urshan here. Maybe they are of the same race, so this invitation. Jia Yan's eyes flashed with inexplicable luster, but he was not too moved. In this genius battle realm genius battle, the opponent must not dare to do anything, at least in the outer star areas of the genius battle realm. I heard Nalongta say that this is not the case in the inner high-level star areas. Jia Yan has not passed by yet. No way of knowing. It turns out to be His Excellency, King Erbian of the Erlang Force, whose name I have admired for a long time among the tornado forces. Tai Jing quickly greeted him. It seems that the monster that looks like King is a well-known existence in the 132 star district. Taijin was so excited when he saw him. You must know that many forces come to the Erlang Force, and at most a sub-level strongman comes to lead them to their temporary residence. However, their tornado force is completely unknown, and they actually have a well-known half-star genius in the Erlang Force come to greet them. It is simply something unprecedented. My friend, you don't need to be like this. I heard that there is an incredible genius in your force. Can you introduce him to me? King Erbian's eyes flashed wildly, and he did not pay attention to Tai Jin who was coming out of the battleship. He just looked directly at the Edisha where Jia Yan was. When Jia Yan was looked at by this gaze, he felt as if he was being stared at by an unfair gaze in the Edessa, and felt uncomfortable all over his body. However, he did not make a fool of himself. Instead, he moved, the Edessa opened a hatch, and he flew out. The monster named King Urbian had no idea that a mere venerable Jia Yan could be so calm under his secret temptation, and his demeanor suddenly changed. "I don't know, Senior King Urbian, would you like to meet this junior and give me some advice?" Jia Yan flew out of the Edessa. Although his body was nearly 1 kilometer larger than that of King Urbian, he was like a baby. There was no timidity in his eyes. Instead, he went directly to meet several semi-star level greeters. When he came to Taijin, Jia Yan was only a little behind Taijin. All living things could see that this was just the distance that Jia Yan showed respect for Taijin. Looking at Taijin, you can understand that Jia Yan seemed to be in the dragon's arms. Among the Wan forces, his status is almost the same as that of Taijin. Okay, as expected, a hero comes from a young age. Your Excellency, Jia Yan, you are very good. There was a hint of surprise in the eyes of the king of Narbian. As he spoke, he looked at Jia Yan up and down. This semi-stellar genius named Urbian King is one of the Erlong forces who supports the members of the Urshan forces. Their Erlong forces have paid a lot of price to secretly support the Urshan forces, and this Jia Yan was in 251. The star zone caused great damage to the image of Urshan's forces and also caused great harm to their interests, so his previous impression of Jia Yan had always been extremely bad. But now that he met Jia Yan, he understood why King Urshan wanted Jia Yan to join. A being of the venerable level was actually calm and composed in front of their group of half-star level experts. This was not just a matter of temperament, it at least represented that Jia Yan could compete with the half-star level experts to a certain extent. Ability. There are rumors coming from the border that Jia Yan is suspected of having the talent of a high-level genius. Is this true? After King Urbian saw Jia Yan with his own eyes, he became confused about what he had not believed before. If this is the case, then as long as he is willing to join our Erlong force, wouldn't it be that our Erlong force has a greater chance of becoming a medium force in the future? Thinking of this, King Urbian looked at Jia Yan with a warm look in his eyes. Stand up. The entire Erlong force has become a medium force. This has been the desire of the Erlong force for many years. Under this desire, what is the grudge between Jia Yan and the Urshan force? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 909. Even if the entire Urshan force is destroyed, as long as the Erlong force can be brought into the medium force category, the Erlong force will not blink an eye, or in other words, it is just a waste of a small chess piece. The price is really worth it. Your Excellency Jia Yan, welcome to your arrival. Come, I will lead you. After his thoughts suddenly changed, King Narbian became friendly and came to Jia Yan to guide him. The half-star geniuses behind King Urbian all looked at each other in confusion. They only knew that among the tornado forces that came over, there was one who was destroying their Erlong forces' chess pieces in the 251-star area. He originally came here to cause trouble, but now the King of Urbian is suddenly so nice to him. And it's still with a venerable person. What is this thing called? Regardless of the looks of his colleagues, the tornado forces, and even the people from various forces around him, King Urbian became more and more friendly to Jia Yan and introduced the surrounding scenery while flying with Jia Yan. Your Excellency Jia Yan, the scenery in this force is pretty good. You must know that the price we paid for this environment is extremely huge. While listening to the other party's words, Jia Yan analyzed why this monster, who was similar to King Urshan, was so nice to him. He had clearly felt the other party's malice just now, but after he acted tougher, he actually made a 180-degree change in his attitude towards himself. That's right, he must be like the King Urshan at that time, and he has a so-called love for me. Jia Yan shook his head, and he suddenly understood the thoughts of this force. But Jia Yan is destined not to join the Erbian forces, because he has made plans not to betray Wu Xi's forces at least in the short term. Haha, Your Excellency Jia Yan, that is the temporary residence I have just settled for your power. My residence is also in the star next door. I feel a sense of fate when I meet you. You should move around more during the Genius War. After more than an hour of guiding him, King Erbian finally brought Jia Yan cordially to his temporary residence. This is actually the highest level residence for foreign guests. What does the king here want to do? When Tai Jin and other monsters from the Tornado Force saw the residence, they all looked at a loss. The Tornado Force is just an inconspicuous role among all the forces in this Dragon Force Genius battle. Now it can actually get such a top contestant's residence. There are some reasons why no one will believe it. Of course, everyone had some vague guesses in their hearts, and when they looked at Jia Yan, they were even more amazed. Jia Yan didn't care so much. If the other party wanted to prepare, then he would be ready. He didn't ask for help anyway. Under the leadership of a strong person from Sigwan, Jia Yan came to the room assigned to him alone. That time, Guanqiang obviously made special arrangements and understood the importance of Jia Yan, so he didn't put on any airs. He even behaved like a simple waiter and was very respectful to Jia Yan. With this kind of attitude, every living thing will feel comfortable. If Jia Yan hadn't had a knot in his heart, he might have already had a good impression of this Erlong force. But the Erlong force actually has an affair with the Naertian force. That's all. If they are the superior force of that force, they must all act in the same way. I don't like this kind of force. After Jia Yan took a look at the forces around him, he started practicing without checking. As mentioned before, most of the cultivation of starry sky creatures involves the perception of energy and the conception of moves. After all, the more powerful the cosmic creatures are, the closer their fighting methods are to the complex principles of the universe. Infrequently, it is simply impossible to become stronger through deduction and analysis. Jia Yan's path has inheritance, and the road ahead is basically smooth, at least on the path of space talent. So he put his center of gravity on the black hole. The rewards during this period include many space stones. At least the space stones in my hand exceed my control ability. Jia Yan took out a space stone. This stone was a reward obtained in the last battle between Pingtian forces and geniuses. It looked even larger than the other stones. Presumably this is the reward for being a semi-stellar champion. I have been thinking about how to maximize the use of these space stones during this period. The strong men in the universe who have no space talent will exchange these space stones, and some will build them in equipment or weapons. Such equipment and weapons will have some unique effects on attack and defense. But I don't need them. I have always followed the path of becoming stronger. This is also the path that evolved beasts should take, so I can only think of ways to use them in other places. Jia Yan began to ponder. On the way to Erlong's power, he actually made a thorough understanding and conception of the extra space stone, and he already had a vague general direction in his heart. But this direction was also a terrifying and crazy idea for Jia Yan. Even Edisha exclaimed for a long time after hearing his idea. But Jia Yan still doesn't want to give up, because as long as this idea comes true, then I will have a huge killing weapon. And it is a huge killing weapon that only I can use. The fierce coldness in Jia Yan's eyes flickered for a long time. Not long after, Jia Yan continued to play with the largest space stone and continued his research. During his time in seclusion, news spread like wildfire that the Erlong force, a powerful force, entertained a small force from the border. All the forces, large and small, who came to participate in the event were extremely curious about this matter. As an extremely powerful force in the 132-star area, the Erlong force would not be able to entertain a small force at will. They would invite the small border force into a high-standard player resting building. There must be some purpose. Each of the top forces as powerful as Erlong secretly investigated the matter about the tornado forces. The results of the investigation surprised all those forces. Is it because of the so-called Shadow Master? Everything on the internet is about this shady master. Public opinion is almost unanimously saying that he is a being who has won several genius battles through shady means. You can't put it that way. Don't we know best what the genius battle represents in the genius battlefield? Jia Yan's luck is indeed a bit too good, but he also has several battle experiences with truly powerful semi-star geniuses, and we have defeated them all. With this kind of talent, can a mid-level genius in our force be able to achieve it? What's more, when he achieved this, he didn't even reach the peak strength of the Venerable. Sure enough, the Erlong forces are targeting Jia Yan. Our forces cannot be late. Hurry, send people to make manual contact with the tornado. The creatures from the tornado force who came to participate in the genius battle originally thought that as country people, they would be looked down upon in this high-level genius battle. However, what they did not expect was that when they came to the Erlong force, they were first treated with disdain. When they were a little dizzy due to the extremely high-level reception, the heads of the big forces came to meet them. This is so revealing. Tai Jin almost seemed drunk. He was already sure that even though the tornado forces did not have any eye-catching performance in the Erlong genius battle this time, Ming Sheng still increased several times. They all want to see Jia Yan, but Jia Yan has refused to show up in the past few days, saying that he has another clue to becoming stronger. A high-level genius is still working so hard. No wonder so many forces want to see him. Tai Jin and other creatures, to be honest, they no longer regard Jia Yan as a junior, but rather admire him. Those forces wanted to see Jia Yan, but they were all turned away. They who originally just wanted to get in touch with Jia Yan suddenly became bored and stopped coming. There were also some rumors that Jia Yan was maybe Yan, the shady master, really has some shameful things, otherwise he wouldn't even dare to meet guests. Of course, Jia Yan cannot be the protagonist yet in this genius battle between Erlong forces. There were too many contestants in the entire Erlong force genius competition. The little noise he caused was nothing compared to the appearance of a mid-level genius from some big forces, or the appearance of a powerful semi-stellar powerhouse who had not shown up for a long time. It caused a big commotion. The total number of participants is tens of thousands, which can be said to be the best of the 132-star districts. Among the waves of various information, the little stir caused by Jia Yan's search for the book garden quickly disappeared. Even the king of Narbian, after the first two visits, gradually stopped coming because Jia Yan refused to go out and was busy with affairs when important events came. The tornado forces finally calmed down. But Jia Yan didn't care so much about all this. The battle between geniuses of the Erlong forces was huge, and they had been prepared for it for a long time. However, Jia Yan could feel the powerful fluctuations in the energy of semi-star level experts every day, and he also felt extremely wary of some of them. This made him feel anxious in his heart. It seems that my breakthrough to the late venerable stage is still not enough. Now it depends on whether the idea I am working on can be completed before the war. But, even if it is completed, can I use it? If I use it, then... Jia Yan was silently in his guest room, carrying out complicated ideas, calculations, and ideas again. Then some special fluctuations emerged in the void, but they were quickly extinguished by himself. He continues on his own path and continues his own efforts. As a big mosquito who has had no sense of security since his rebirth, Jia Yan only believes in himself, and he also believes in his own sense of security, which only he can bring to himself. While Jia Yan was quietly improving, the date for the Erlong force was getting closer and closer. In fact, including the time spent on the journey. Jia Yan in this 132-star sector can at most finish participating in the genius battle of the Erlong forces and then return to the 251-star sector, otherwise it will be too late. So in other words, the battle between the Erlong forces will be Jia Yan's last swan song in the 132-star area. And this swan song performance is destined to be extraordinary. Finally, the day of battle has arrived. Please subscribe to the official version, thank you. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 910. The huge crowds are not enough to describe the scene of Erlong's genius battle. On the day the war started, the Erlong forces announced certain bans. The reason was that there were too many contestants, and the audience was dozens or hundreds of times more than the contestants. It was a helpless move. This is the result of Erlong's forces strictly prohibiting ordinary people from coming to watch the battle, which shows how popular Erlong's genius battle is. The already lively Erlong force will become a paradise for creatures during this period. Some spectators are not even here to watch the battle, but come to the Erlong force to enjoy some special entertainment. Hello everyone, we meet again. I am King Erding, the #1 live broadcast commentator of the Erlong force. Unknowingly, it is the day of the genius battle of the Erlong force that occurs every few years. First of all, on behalf of the Erlong force, I would like to welcome all major the arrival of powerful players and spectators. This year's Erlong force still maintains the excitement of previous years. The total number of contestants has exceeded 100,000, and the number of people watching the game has exceeded millions. Due to various reasons, more and more people are watching the game in front of the media. It's countless. We at Erlong Force are grateful for everyone's support, thank you. Now let's welcome this generation of powerful players. The team started to enter. Jia Yan was mixed in the team of players from the Tornado Force, looking at the grand event around him. Even though Jia Yan had seen the grand scene, he felt a little shocked. Originally, he had always felt that although the Starry Sky Genius monsters were huge in size, their numbers had never been large, but the number of Starry Sky powerhouses he saw today was beyond his imagination. Not only were the number of biological contestants participating in the competition terrifying, but also the number of biological creatures watching dazzled Jia Yan. You must know that millions are extremely terrifying numbers for humans on Earth, not to mention these millions, each one Starry Sky monsters that are more than tens of meters tall. With millions of huge monsters together, Jia Yan could feel that after these millions, the several star regions he had stayed in before, whether it was the Northern Star region or the Losai Empire, would be pushed away by this force. Flat. Of course, if the Losai Empire has a star-level existence, that would be another story. In short, such a terrifying number made Jia Yan even scared. This is the result of the Erlong forces trying their best to control the audience. How many powerful genius creatures are there in the 132-star district? And how many genius creatures are there in the entire genius battlefield? It's scary, really scary. Jia Yan felt a chill when he thought about the meaning behind this number. After seeing this scene, he had a guess about the number of creatures in the entire galaxy. You must know that these are all geniuses. None of them are now like ordinary human beings, huddled together. The first team to enter is our Erlong Force team. This time our force has sent more than 5,000 contestants. They are led by the fifth strongest player in our force, King Aryang. The remaining 267 one is a half-star genius, 1,852 rank-level masters, and the rest are venerable geniuses. The commentator explained quickly, without any stage fright due to such a large audience. Of course, because the monster himself is a semi-star powerhouse, and you can tell from his tone that he is here. He has been in his position for a long time, and there is no possibility of a slip of the tongue. The second team is the West Eagle Force team. As one of the top forces in this region, their lineup this year cannot be underestimated. Among the total of more than 3,500 participants, there are. The third participating team is. The fourth one. The commentator Erding Wan kept explaining, and in the surrounding dome-like building, countless spectators were quietly watching the teams and contestants. You must know that there are more than 100,000 contestants in this session, and some small forces only have a few contestants. It would not be enough time to explain such small forces one by one, so the Erlong force only selected some forces to conduct the entrance ceremony. The Tornado forces are also among them. The 127th team will be invited next. They are the Tornado force participating teams from the distant borders of the Star region. When King Erding called out the name of the Tornado Force team, every spectator and member of the participating team all turned their heads and looked over. Although the Tornado Force has not been in the limelight recently, it has still gained some popularity. Now they want to see what kind of figure the legendary Shadow Master who can kill enemies across ranks is. Under the leadership of Taejin, Jia Yan was ranked second, and the Erlong forces with a total of 11 participating creatures slowly entered the field. Of course, the Tornado Force has more than just these talented creatures, but considering the level issue, Taejin decided to reduce the number of personnel, and finally selected 10 local geniuses from the Tornado Force, plus Jia Yan, the foreign aide, slowly appeared. Other representative teams have at least hundreds of people, but this Tornado Force only has 11 creatures. It makes me laugh to death. Why are you laughing? Other forces have the ability to become a representative force on the field. Our force does not have that honor yet. The surrounding audience also looked at this team with some surprise, which was different from other representative teams. They soon discovered that the overall strength of this team did not seem to be that strong. But the commentator's words made the audience suddenly start to understand. In the ranks of the Tornado forces, there is a powerful genius from the outer star area. He is Your Excellency Jia Yan. Please take a look. This Excellency Jia Yan came to our 132 star sector just to ask for advice from the powerful geniuses in my star area. He is extremely powerful, and it is rumored that he once defeated several powerful semi-star geniuses as a venerable, and won several semi-star championships. It's a good thing that King Erding didn't talk about it, but when he told about Jia Yan's past, some viewers who seemed to have read Jia Yan's deeds immediately understood. I said that the name of the Tornado Force seems familiar. It turns out that this is the force where the Shady Master belongs. Yes, I have watched the game in the powerful force. This is Jia Yan. Bastard, he actually dares to come to my top competition in the 132nd sector to release, get out. What a garbage venerable. That's right, Lord Shady, get out. Lord Shady, get out. The audience knew about Jia Yan's past, and some even scolded Jia Yan in the powerful forces. This was great. The Tornado Force instantly attracted hatred, and a wave of curses immediately sounded. It has to be said that even if only 1% of the monsters among the millions of viewers cursed, the sound would be extremely terrifying. What is even more powerful is that some of these creatures are powerful half-stars. Or, there is even a power attack in the sound wave of the curse. Puff. Puff puff. The 11 contestants from the Tornado Force seemed to be stuck in a quagmire, and their footsteps were knocked back by the sound waves. It's scary. The sound waves created by countless monsters can actually stop our footsteps. This is just the sound of talking, which shows how terrifying the amount of energy is. Jia Yan did not retreat, but continued to move forward with Taejin, just looking at the countless monsters around him, a little shocked. Fortunately, the organizers' measures were good. A faint energy similar to the power of brain waves was immediately formed on the way to the entrance. The sound waves bombarded it, but it did not cause this energy to break. Jia Yan and other Tornado Force contestants successfully arrived at the scheduled qualifying location. Jia Yan, it seems that your reputation has spread even to the realm of Erlong's power. Tai Jinggong stood still and joked to Jia Yan with a wry smile. Jia Yan had nothing to say and could only shake his head. He had nothing to say about this situation. His reputation was so bad that he was embarrassed. Fortunately, one team after another entered the stage, and the audience slowly gave up on insulting Jia Yan, the shady master. A total of 200 representative teams entered the venue. Except for the Tornado Force team, each team had more than 100 creatures. They stood on the playing field and occupied half of the playing field. The scene was extremely spectacular. Jia Yan looked at the surrounding creatures among the countless monsters. Every one of them was almost bigger than him. What is even more frightening is that this group of monsters participating in the competition are all venerable and above. Ordinary venerables will not participate. Each one is at least late venerable or above. Fortunately, Jia Yan barely reached the late stage of the venerable, otherwise he might be the weakest in the whole field. Okay, welcome to the players. I will now announce the rules of this competition. I hope all players will abide by them. King Erding announced the rules of the game. In fact, it is not much different from ordinary genius battles in the outside world, but the terms are more delicate. But there are also some special ones. The Erlong forces have many details in the championship awards, as well as some unique awards activities, etc. After all, no matter whether it is a venerable or a semi-star strong person, as long as they can win any of these championships, then they are all the most powerful beings among the powerful people of the same level in the 132-star district. The award ceremony cannot be careless. Now I announce that the 798th Erlong Genius Battle has officially begun. After explaining the details, King Erding on the high platform officially announced the start of the Genius Battle. The army of forces on the battlefield quickly flew away from the battlefield in an instant. After all, each one of them was a powerful genius, and it was very easy for them to fly. Jia Yan, did you see that there were quite a few mid-level geniuses in the battle arena before, including several at the venerable level? Originally, I thought we didn't have many mid-level geniuses in the 132-star district. Now it seems I was wrong. Those major forces have a lot of mid-level geniuses, but none of them have reached the semi-star level yet. Taejin and Jia Yan flew together towards the player resting area where the tornado forces were arranged, while talking to Jia Yan. Well, I feel it too. A moderate genius is indeed extraordinary. Jia Yan nodded. In fact, he did see a few middle-level geniuses from a distance just now, and even a few middle-level geniuses at the venerable level, and they released their fighting intentions towards him. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 911. Jia Yan doesn't take the middle-level geniuses at the venerable level seriously, but it's different for those at the next level. Okay, just see it. I believe in your strength, there will be no surprises in the venerable level. Compared with the disdain of the audience and other contestants, Taijin absolutely understands Jia Yan's strength. At least at the venerable level, he can't think of any possibility of Jia Yan failing. Okay, by the way, Senior Taijin, you'd better give me your semi-star level name later. Thank you. As soon as Jia Yan agreed, he uttered words that made Taijin hesitate. It turns out that in the previous discussion, Taijin and a group of Tornado Force creatures raised the issue that Jia Yan would only sign up for the Venerable and Kugwan strong level competitions. Jia Yan didn't say anything at the time, but he didn't expect that at this time at the critical moment, he actually asked for a supplementary registration for the semi-star event. That's all, just retaliate, Jia Yan. Although our tornado forces only have a cooperative relationship with you, I don't want to see your casualties. Do you understand? Taijin shook his head helplessly and asked Jia Yan. Yan said cautiously. Jia Yan once again made a supplementary report for the semi-star level event. Several senior officials in the Erlong force were surprised when they heard the news. None of them had thought that Jia Yan would dare to sign up for the semi-star level competition in their Erlong force. This was different from the semi-star level competition on the border. There were countless powerful beings in it, and it could even be said that he entered the top 500. Yes, every strong person has the possibility to compete for the first place in the Mighty Force half-star level. Jia Yan even won the Mighty Force half-star championship more than a month ago, and now he is actually competing in the Urshan Hand Power Genius competition. Here, dare to participate in a semi-stellar level battle? It seems that Jia Yan is just focused on participation. That's right. He will fight the enemy at a higher level. The biggest idea is to gain practical experience. After King Erbian heard the news about Jia Yan's competition, he became more and more fond of Jia Yan. I have inquired that Jia Yan has only stayed in the backward star sector of 251 since he came to the genius battlefield. I hope this competition will not affect this genius's ambition. King Erbian's worries were naturally unnecessary. Jia Yan was already fully prepared at this moment. If you don't fight with strong people, how can you get promoted? What's more, his current strength is not what he was during the war between powerful forces. The first battle begins. Just after Jia Yan and Tai Jin and others went through a series of procedures, the battle of the Erlong forces venerable level had begun. The two venerables on the high platform instantly started fighting. It is indeed a battle of geniuses among the Erlong forces. The first battle was so exciting Jia Yan's eyes lit up when he saw the battle on the field. It turns out that in this battle, the two great sages were extremely terrifying. One was a tall creature like a tiger, and the other was like a lizard. The battle between the two sides was extremely fierce, and they vaguely looked like ordinary second-level geniuses. Jia Yan was so frightened when he saw several sages from the tornado force that his color changed. In the end, of these two sages, the one who won was the tiger-like being. The reaction from the surrounding audience was not great. It seemed that they had seen too many battles of this level. Erlong's forces did not specially arrange any powerful sages for the first battle, but this first battle between sages was still very high level, which shows that Erlong's genius battle is really extremely high-end. The venerable level genius is the competition with the most participants. Of course, the Erlong forces will not fight one by one, otherwise the audience will fall asleep. So they arranged a rule for 5 simultaneous battles. The huge arena was divided into 5 stages, which was big enough for the venerable. Some sages started fighting and ended the battle very quickly, while others were very slow. After Jia Yan watched several battles, he also saw the battle of a moderately talented sage. It was a female venerable who was one size smaller than Jia Yan. She looked like a gray fish, but her upper body was somewhat similar to that of a human being. She was roughly similar to the legendary mermaid on Earth. Bah! The female venerable stabbed her opponent in the chest with the fish bone in her hand, and with one move, the opponent was stabbed. Snort! The mermaid monster hummed lightly, as if the whole world owed her a million, and then jumped off the platform. Jia Yan vaguely seemed to see the mermaid lady and glanced in his direction. But he didn't care at all. It seems that this is the strength of a middle-level genius. It is indeed much stronger than ordinary beings of the same level, but it does not pose much of a threat to me. After Jia Yan observed this battle, he became convinced and had an intuitive understanding of the position of a middle-level genius. Soon, the referee in the northwest corner called out Jia Yan's name. Jia Yan, Rutai, fight on the third court. When Jia Yan heard his name, he immediately flew over. Taijin didn't give any instructions. He understood that Jia Yan was at the level of a venerable, so whether he was an opponent of an ordinary venerable or a moderately talented opponent, there should be no problem. When I arrived at arena number 3, I saw my opponent had also arrived. It was a slender monster like a python. His body was more than 300 meters long, and his eyes were cold-blooded and dull, looking at Jia Yan fiercely. Of course, Jia Yan's appearance is not very beautiful, and his insect's compound eyes are very penetrating when he looks at others. Are you Jia Yan? That shameless shady master, right? I heard my friend mention you. He asked me to meet you and teach you a lesson. The python monster looked at Jia Yan, especially when he saw Jia Yan. Yan Guang said with some disdain after entering the later stage brainwave power of the Venerable. He didn't expect that Jia Yan wouldn't talk to him at all, but looked at the referee. Senior, can we start the battle? Jia Yan asked calmly. Okay, the referee nodded. You. After all, the python monster is also a genius among the powerful. After being ignored by Jia Yan, he suddenly became angry. Boom. But before that, Jia Yan suddenly flew up and came to the front of the python monster. The python monster was shocked. He had no idea that the shady master mentioned by his friend could be so terrifying. It was so fast that he couldn't even see it. He wanted to dodge, and at the same time, streaks of oil appeared on his skin. He wanted to use the oiliness of his skin to avoid Jia Yan's blow. But everything is useless due to the gap in strength. Jia Yan stabbed him lightly, and the python monster was directly nailed to the ground. I surrender. Seeing that Jia Yan deliberately avoided his vital points, the python monster hurriedly said in shock that he was admitting defeat. He understood that the gap between himself and Jia Yan was not an ordinary gap at all, but a huge difference in strength. Concession. Jia Yan was not too happy, he just nodded politely, then got up and flew back to the location of the tornado forces. Look, this is Jia Yan's strength, the commentator on the high platform, the Erding King, has been explaining Jia Yan's battle, especially when he saw Jia Yan easily defeated with one blow. After facing his opponent, he roared very emotionally. He didn't know whether he had a good feeling for Jia Yan or not. In short, he had a vague feeling of flattering him. He preached how powerful Jia Yan was, which made all the geniuses at the venerable level look at Jia Yan in a strange way. Get up. Of course, Jia Yan didn't have any fear if it was just a venerable monster. Snort. When the mermaid monster saw Jia Yan, their eyes met again. This time she clearly snorted at Jia Yan. I must have never seen her, right? Why is she so unfriendly to me? Of course, it seems that in the venerable level, the majority of people who are unfriendly to me are the majority, and there is not much more than her. Jia Yan smiled lightly, then he returned to the Tornado Force team indifferently. Congratulations on winning the first game. Tai Jin saw Jia Yan returning and congratulated him. Congratulate me after I win the venerable level championship. Jia Yan shook his head and said nonchalantly. Tai Jin smiled when he heard this. Sure enough, no matter how Jia Yan won, there would be no congratulations. The battle still continues. Although the battle at the venerable level is the lowest level in the entire genius battle, no force will despise it. You must know that every strong person comes from the venerable. Find some geniuses in Shuyuan. The strong ones have emerged from the level of the venerable, so they will not think that the venerable is weak. Some truly gifted masters are currently at the master level, and maybe in a few decades they will become semi-star level experts, able to threaten other semi-star geniuses present. That venerable is so powerful that he has won consecutive battles. The one over there is also powerful. I can feel that he might catch up with me in the future. He is so strong. Each power master is discovering potential sages, and there are a few sages in particular that they are very concerned about, such as the mid-level geniuses from several major forces, and several sages with unique fighting talents. There is another person who is yelled at every time he appears in the audience, the shady master, Jia Yan. Puff. After a soft sound. Ugh. How could it be possible that Jia Yan actually defeated the enemy with one move? You must know that his opponent is the fifth strongest sage in the West and East forces. Is his talent really that terrifying? Isn't that his name, Lord Shame? He actually seems to have some talent. All the semi-star geniuses were shocked by Jia Yan's performance. Now the battle has reached the top 100 at the venerable level. Jia Yan still defeats the enemy one by one in every battle, showing a complete crushing attitude. Defeat the enemy with one move. Next game, Jia Yan vs Heijin. When the names of both teams came out for Jia Yan's 100th place in the top 50, the entire stadium was shocked. Heijin and Jia Yan are facing each other, haha, it's going to be a good show. That's right, Jia Yan's depth will definitely be reflected in this battle. You must know that Heijin's strength was tentatively ranked in the top 12 before the game. Against him, even if he is an average second-level geniuses are always in danger, and no matter how strong Jia Yan is, he can no longer be so relaxed. Thanks to the book friend Yes Yang Chen for the tip. Thank you. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 912. The geniuses from the onlookers, as well as the audience, are full of expectations for this battle between dragons and tigers. They finally discovered that Jia Yan seemed to have some strength, but no matter how powerful he was still just a venerable person. It would take at least some skill to deal with black gold. But a slap in the face happened. Puff. When Jia Yan was just like in the previous battle, without even changing his moves, he stabbed out a front foot and nailed the black gold to the ground in one move. The whole place was excited. Madam, it's too scary. This Jia Yan player actually defeated the black gold player in one move. His strength is actually able to defeat even the top 20 venerables with one strike. Is his strength really superior to that of the venerable? Are you invincible? The commentator shouted out that among the powerful men at the venerable level, 3 monsters who had been looking at each other and seemed not to take other opponents seriously suddenly turned their heads. This guy's name is Jia Yan, right? He's too arrogant. Humph, the venerable is invincible. None of us middle-level geniuses have spoken. How can the venerable level be dominated by an outsider like him? These 3 great masters are actually the middle-level geniuses in the 132 star areas, and all of them are at the top of the master level, almost approaching the next level experts. It's no wonder that they don't pay attention to other sages. The level of talent cannot be leveled by ordinary strength. Originally, they didn't even take Jia Yan seriously, but now after hearing the commentator's words, they immediately became interested in fighting against Jia Yan. Jia Yan also felt the look in their eyes, but he didn't express much. After all, at the venerable level, as long as there are no high-level talents, Jia Yan has no chance of losing. Even high-level geniuses have to fight to know who is better. The ensuing battles of the venerable level continued to unfold, and Jia Yan also proved his terror with his strength one by one. Even those 3 mid-level geniuses now faced opponents who needed at least a few moves, but Jia Yan still defeated the enemy with one move. Too weak, too weak, too weak. Jia Yan struck out with another move, and in the silence of the entire audience, he defeated the so-called 5th-placed venerable. At this time, not only the audience, but also the few middle-level geniuses looked at each other. When I meet those bulls, I need more than 3 moves to win, but this Jia Yan is still a light move. Is he really stronger than us? Impossible, we are middle-level geniuses. He is a being who has just entered the late stage of the venerable. How can he be stronger than us? I know. He must be facing someone weaker than himself and can quickly determine the winner. If you encounter this type, you will definitely lose if you encounter us. Several middle-level geniuses were still unwilling to recognize Jia Yan's strength at this juncture. Finally, Jia Yan did not have the good luck before, but entered the battle for the top 4. In the first game, he met a mid-level talent opponent. Jia Yan, as an outsider, it's a great honor for you to have come this far. How about defeating me now? The middle-level genius was a monster that resembled a large dog. When he looked at Jia Yan, the large dog had a bloodthirsty look and seemed to have an extremely violent temper. "Do I want to lose?" "Yes, but you have to show your strength." Jia Yan glanced at the opponent with compound eyes, and then passed by with disdain. Instead, his eyes turned to the team of semi-star level experts. At this moment, there was a hint of solemnity and fighting spirit in his eyes. "You're too arrogant." When the big dog-like monster saw that Jia Yan dared to ignore him, how could a moderately talented genius endure such treatment? Blood suddenly burst out in his eyes and he rushed towards the ground where Jia Yan was. Medium genius? It's really scary. Even ordinary second-level geniuses can't possess this kind of strength. But this was the first time that Jia Yan faced a so-called mid-level genius, but in his eyes, this opponent was nothing more than stronger than ordinary sages. The giant dog's sharp teeth that the opponent attacked sent out a foul-smelling bite. But before that, Jia Yan shook his head lightly, and then with lightning speed, he gently thrust out his right front foot. Puff! Well, the big dog clearly felt that he could see Jia Yan's attack, but he couldn't dodge it. His big eyes widened. At this moment, he felt that even if he used all his potential, he would not be able to dodge the attack. Under his own incredible gaze, his body was like a bullet, crashing into Jia Yan's front foot. Bang! There was a soft sound, and then the whole battle platform regained its calmness instantly. Some of the surrounding spectators were still discussing this battle just now. It's impossible for Jia Yan to win this battle. You have to know that what he met this time is a mid-level genius from our 132th sector. This kind of existence is like a legend to us. He can win the battle by relying on shady secrets. Your Majesty, how can you win? Well, the audience members who firmly believed that Jia Yan could not win felt as if their throats were being strangled in the next moment. Because they hadn't finished speaking, Jia Yan's stabbing blow was like driving a nail, gently nailing the big dog to the ground. Not only were the movements the same, but the place where he was nailed to the ground was exactly the same as the opponent he had defeated before. This means that the gap in strength is really too big. Jia Yan won again? He beat the middle-level genius that our 132nd district is proud of. The audience was stunned, and so were the surrounding players. The great middle-level geniuses at the venerable level also almost stared out of their eyes, especially the mermaid monster who had snorted at Jia Yan several times before. At this time, his face almost turned pale, and he could not speak to himself for a long time. Even though they were average geniuses, even though they were extremely confident, they were not worth mentioning in front of Jia Yan's crushing strength. Jia Yan seemed to be using practical explanations, saying that those who laughed at him were just clowns. Jia Yan defeated a mid-level talent for the first time, and he still won such a crushing victory. Of course, this is just the beginning. In the future, he will meet more middle-level talents and win more victories. Returning to the Tornado Force-seeking team, Taejin had already greeted him. Although he had long known that Jia Yan's victory was natural, he still congratulated him. You must know that he is a middle-level genius. In the eyes of Taejin and others, who is not superior among the strong men of the same level. But now he was defeated by Jia Yan with just one blow, which made them feel very happy. It seems that the mid-level geniuses who were originally too small to be underestimated are no longer so intimidating. Win 2 more games, and I will get the venerable level championship. Jia Yan, the rewards will be given out later, but they will be given immediately after the championship battle. Of course, this is only a reward for the Erlong forces, but I think there is something inside. There will be no shortage of good things. Congratulations to you, Taejin said. I see. Jia Yan's heart moved. He could understand that the Erlong forces directly issued rewards to stimulate the fighting spirit of players at lower levels. Of course, in order to achieve this goal, the rewards must not be shabby. Naturally, Jia Yan was not surprised at all when fighting at the level of a venerable. After another victory, he went directly to the final championship game. "Hey, it's you." Since he didn't pay much attention to other players' battles, Jia Yan didn't know that his opponent was the mermaid monster from before. "Humph, you are so brave. You don't even know that your opponent is me. It shows that you don't take us seriously at all." The mermaid monster made a sound for the first time. It sounded extremely pleasant, and its words were vaguely like singing. "You said you don't take you seriously, so I won't take you seriously." Jia Yan shook his head helplessly and said. He didn't take these venerables seriously in the first place. Even when he met mid-level geniuses for the first time, he didn't take them seriously because the difference in strength was too big. "Okay. Then I will show you your strength." The mermaid monster didn't know why she was so angry at Jia Yan. At this moment, she didn't take any chances and took action directly. Boom! Her human-like upper body moved slightly, and then she clapped her fingers, and a large sound wave struck in the direction of Jia Yan. It turned out that she saw that Jia Yan's previous battle was a complete defeat of the enemy. But Jia Yan did not release too many long-range attack capabilities, so at this moment he launched an attack from a distance, trying not to get close. "Jia Yan." Jia Yan shook his head and smiled, standing on the spot and directly taking the blow. "Come again." The mermaid monster was not a big surprise. If Jia Yan was so easy to deal with, the previous mid-level geniuses would not have been defeated in one move. She opened her mouth, pointed in the direction of Jia Yan, and roared a sharp sound. Oh! It turns out to be a sonic attack. It looks more and more like the mermaids on Earth. Jia Yan was startled when he heard this voice. Although he was surprised, the difference in strength between the two sides was too great. Jia Yan did not want to hide at all, and just walked in front of the opponent under the sonic attack of the mermaid's seemingly ultimate move. After the mermaid monster launched a sonic attack, her strength seemed to be greatly reduced. Then she looked at the big mosquito slowly walking towards her in disbelief. Jia Yan was about a head taller than the other person, looking down at her at the moment. Jia Yan didn't speak, he just came so close and looked at it calmly. "I admit defeat." The mermaid monster did not insist, she said the words of surrender. "There is no way, everyone can see that the gap in strength is too big." She even used the ultimate killing move, but Jia Yan walked in front of her calmly from the sound wave. Player Jia Yan wins. The honorable champion belongs to player Jia Yan. King Erding on the high platform announced Jia Yan's victory with some discomfort. You must know that in the previous battle, Jia Yan even wiped out the average genius of his Erlong force with one move. How could he be happy? But anyone with a discerning eye can see that Jia Yan's strength is at the level of an exalted person. It seems that compared to the few genius battles he had when he first came to the 132-star district, his strength has become more terrifying. It's impossible not to recognize him as the champion. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 913. Now we will award the venerable level champion. King Erding flew to the battle platform in person. He showed a faint smile to Jia Yan, as if Jia Yan, a junior, understood his wishes. But now Jia Yan is almost a being that he wants to kill. You must know that among the Erlong forces, although there is King Erbian who is friendly to Jia Yan, most of the senior officials are not so kind to Jia Yan, especially the commentator, King Erding, who explained that the terrifying genius Jia Yan was destroyed. How could he be in a good mood when he was the genius of his own force? King Da Shelding. Jia Yan ignored King Erding's hidden murderous intention and just nodded. He understood that in this genius battle, even the organizer did not dare to take any action against him. After all, in this grand event, there must be a star-level genius battlefield senior observing. You must know that the strength of star-level experts is impossible for the geniuses in the entire genius battlefield to provoke. With such a senior observing the war, he is certainly not afraid of the opponent's threat. Jia Yan was even sure that in this genius battle, the senior observer was still Nalangta. With this senior who was friendly to him in the dark, he was no longer afraid. King Erding took out a box. This box was different from the reward boxes that Jia Yan had obtained in other genius battles before. It was extremely exquisite. What made Jia Yan even more excited was that the inside of the box emitted a powerful energy wave that made him move. After all, it is a reward from a powerful force, and it is obviously not comparable to the rewards from previous genius battles. After King Narding gave Jia Yan the reward box, he seemed not to want to see Jia Yan anymore and flew back to the high platform. Jia Yan came to the queue of geniuses from the Tornado Force. Although everyone wanted to see what the rewards were for the top talent battle event in the 132th sector, after all, Jia Yan was not a member of their Tornado Force, so they all stayed away. Jia Yan came to the Force Lounge. Thanks to the preferential treatment from King Narbian, there was such a large lounge where the Tornado Forces rested. Jia Yan could observe the rewards here. He used his brainwave powers to open the box. As expected, there are a lot of good things. After Jia Yan saw the things in the reward box, his compound eyes flashed with joy. In the reward box, there are some good things, such as star cores and 3 space stones. There are also some ores and finished energy materials that Jia Yan can or cannot use. Among the creatures in the universe, nothing may be universal. The only thing that no race can reject is energy. As for Jia Yan, an evolved beast, the most important thing is energy, which happens to be what he wants. There are some entertainment programs on the battlefield where the outside world has passed through the venerable level battle, and the audience also needs to take a break. After all, not every creature has the patience to watch all the genius battles, not to mention the fact that there are many genius battle players in the Erlong Force. The battle at the venerable level alone lasted for several earthly days. Jia Yan took advantage of this mid-fight time to make use of this energy. I should still have some confidence in the next level of the strong battle. Of course, I have no idea how powerful those mid-level geniuses are, but the bigger obstacle is the battle at the semi-star level. So I can't take advantage of this half-time interval. If I become stronger, the only thing waiting for me will be failure. Jia Yan understood that although his current strength was a lot stronger than before, he was destined to lose against those powerful semi-star geniuses in the 132nd sector. Although he has no real intention of winning the semi-star talent competition, he will not let it go if he has the opportunity to compete. Jia Yan has been in the lounge during the halftime break. The condensation slowly appeared, and the piles of energy stones on the ground were quickly absorbed by Jia Yan. The newly promoted body cannot absorb much energy. It seems that if there are no accidents later, even if I win the next level championship, I will not be able to absorb the reward because my body is already saturated. Jia Yan looked at the speed at which the condensate was absorbed and understood that this devouring would only be a short-lived phenomenon. Even if there were substances given to him later, he would not be able to absorb it. But just in time, if I absorb it now, there will be buffer battles for me to digest in the next level battle. Later, when I reach the semi-star level battle, I will be able to exert my strongest strength. Jia Yan is somewhat looking forward to the next battle. The halftime entertainment program is some funny performances that are loved by the people in the 132-star district, such as brainwave power geniuses, using their strength to make some funny moves, etc. Although Jia Yan can't understand the funny point of this kind of performance, most of the audience is watching it with gusto. A portion of the audience was still dissatisfied with Jia Yan's previous victory at the venerable level. The shady master must have used some unknown method, otherwise how could he have been able to defeat even a middle-level genius? Some people insist that he is a high-level genius, a country boy from the 251st district. Could he be a high-level genius? It's a joke. That's right, I didn't participate in this venerable tournament, Otherwise I would have beaten Jia Yan so hard that his parents wouldn't even recognize him. Last time you participated, there were more than 2,150 people. Let's forget it. In short, we can't let such a shady master take away the rewards of our 132th sector. We must sue the genius later. Battlefield. Just when this group of spectators, who were not very sensitive to Jia Yan, began to speak unkindly towards Jia Yan, the intermission ended. Okay, thank you to the geniuses of the 132nd Star District Performance Team. The intermission is over, and now the battle of the second level of the strong level will begin. King Erding shouted loudly on the high platform with the sound of brainwave power. This sound passed through the loudspeaker and reached the ears of each audience. It resounded through the hearts of millions of creatures inside and outside the battle circle. Now welcome the talented experts who participated in the second level battle. By the way, I want to tell you an interesting piece of information. Player Jia Yan, who just won our venerable level battle championship, actually also signed up for the second level strong battle. Let's all applaud his courage. When King Erding's voice came out, some of the audience who wanted to sue Jia Yan suddenly felt like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. Everyone jumped up. Did you hear this? This Jia Yan actually wants to participate in the second level strongman battle. He thinks that the Erlong Force Genius battle is the same as the small local genius battle he participated in before, and he also wants to show off at the second level. I think he is crazy. Who says otherwise? I think he is not only crazy, but also too crazy. But don't worry, even if Jia Yan wants to operate a shady operation, he will not be able to cause any trouble at the level of a powerful person. After all, in this there are also powerful second level middle level geniuses in the level. No matter how strong Jia Yan is, even if he is really a top level middle level genius, it is impossible for him to defeat another middle level genius across levels. That's right, then we'll sue him later and see how he completely loses the level in this level. The audience was angry, but this did not affect Jia Yan. When King Erding announced the start of the second level battle for the strong level, Jia Yan, who was using condensate to increase his strength in the lounge, slowly squirmed. As he squirmed, the molten condensation on the surface of his body quickly solidified. Within a few seconds, it became as indestructible as the exoskeleton of his previous body. Of course, this does not mean that it is completely solid, but it will take a certain amount of time to reach the original hardness. But when participating in the second level of the strong battle, Jia Yan does not feel that the hardness of the exoskeleton is needed to defeat the opponent. Okay, during this intermission for a day or so, your strength has increased by about 10%, right? Jia Yan looked at his body and felt that his body could no longer hold any energy. In fact, there was still some unused energy ore at the venerable level, but he could no longer absorb it. War. Jia Yan, who became stronger again, walked out of the lounge with his compound eyes gleaming. Tai Jin, who was not far outside the lounge, had been Jia Yan's bodyguard for more than a day. When he saw Jia Yan appear, he quickly came forward, ready to greet Jia Yan. But the next moment, his entire monster body was stunned. This. Tai Jin's eyes widened, with a look of disbelief on his face. Jia Yan's strength has become stronger, but now he is still in a state of energy overflow. It is impossible for him not to notice it. Jia Yan, have you improved your strength again? Taijin asked with some distress. Yes, but the improvement is not huge. Jia Yan nodded. Hearing this, Taijin almost wanted to curse. This gap is too big. Although they are also known as geniuses, it is extremely difficult to improve even a little bit of strength. If they are not prepared, their lives may even be in danger. Jia Yan, on the other hand, improved his power in one breath to a level that even Tai Jin felt was terrifying, but he said, it's not much of an improvement. Are the talents of high-level geniuses so terrifying that they are all so incredible? Let no one live anymore. Tai Jin didn't even know what to say to the beast Jia Yan, so he could only nod his head speechlessly. Then Jia Yan and the two strong men from the Tornado Force stepped into the battle area where the players were waiting. King Erding continued to talk about some rules and then made some witty remarks. In short, after relaxing the atmosphere on the field, he announced the start of the battle. The first battle between the strongest men in the second level begins. When the two masters of the first battle came on stage and started fighting fiercely, Jia Yan's eyes suddenly lit up. It seems to me that the speed of these two major level masters has slowed down. It seems that this improvement has really brought my strength to a new level. Jia Yan was filled with ecstasy in his heart, and he sharpened his weapon before the battle. Although his brainwave power only increased by about 10%, his overall combat effectiveness might have improved more than he imagined. I can't wait to go on stage to try out the actual effect. Jia Yan had the idea of can't wait to go on stage and have a battle. Thanks to the book friend 201702151726250484 for the 500 starting coin reward, thank you.